Who are these guys? Scrubs? Not always. Like Serge Ibaka wanted a team this year but has to play overseas. Patrick Beverley too. Or Jabari Parker. Remember what this did to that man's soul. So who are the next victims? In fact, the NBA has about 486 total players every year. 70 of them are brand new, which means 14% of the league gets kicked out every year. If you're a fringe NBA vet, you hate the NBA draft. Oh, all these kids fulfilling their dream of taking your job. Someone is now unemployed.
You know what's crazy? 70 NBA players lose their jobs every single year. That's like wiping out an entire team and a half worth of players. And these aren't just bench warmers. We're talking about former All-Stars and first-round picks. Right now, there are guys who were dropping 20 points a game just 2 seasons ago who can't get a single team to call them back. The reason why will completely change how you look at NBA careers forever. Remember Markelle Fultz back in 2017?
First is Markelle Fultz. Why? Well, we all know about his tragic story to start in Philly, but think about this. People were so sure that he was the #1 pick. Sixers traded up 2 spots to get him. Boston fell to 3 and took Jason Tatum. Now, 7 years later, Tatum just won his first championship. Fultz is out of the league. What happened?
This kid was supposed to be the final piece of the process in Philadelphia. He was destroying college basketball at Washington. 23 points per game, shooting 41% from 3, making plays that had NBA scouts drooling. The Sixers were so convinced they traded up to get him first overall. Everyone thought they just landed their next superstar. Then training camp happened. Something wasn't right. Fultz's jump shot, the same smooth stroke that made him unstoppable in college, just disappeared. We're not talking about missing shots. His entire form looked broken. He couldn't even shoot free throws anymore. The guy who was automatic from 3 in college was now pump faking on wide open shots. The Sixers tried everything. Personal shooting coaches, medical specialists, even shoulder specialists. Nothing worked. In his first 2 seasons, Fultz played just 33 games total. His confidence was completely shot. The same player who was supposed to form a dynasty with Joel Embiid was now the guy teammates were desperately trying to hype up after he made a basic layup. Philadelphia finally gave up and traded him to Orlando in 2019. The Magic thought they could fix him, get him healthy, rebuild his confidence, unlock that potential everyone saw in college. But the injuries just kept coming. First, it was the shoulder, then a torn ACL, then knee problems. Every time Fultz started looking like his old self, another injury knocked him back down. Look at his Orlando numbers. 48% from the field sounds decent until you realize he's shooting 27% from 3. That's worse than some centers. He hasn't played more than 20 games in a row without getting hurt. 0 healthy seasons in 6 years. You want to know the craziest part? Fultz has made $87 million in NBA salary while playing just 202 total games. That's like getting paid $430,000 per game. The Magic finally gave up this summer, letting him walk away for nothing. Now he can't even get a minimum contract offer. Think about that. A former #1 overall pick, still only 25 years old, can't find a single team willing to take a chance on him. That's how fast things change in today's NBA. 1 minute, you're the future of the league. The next, you're hoping for a training camp invite. But Fultz wasn't the only young player teams suddenly gave up on. While Fultz's story shocked the basketball world, at least he made it 6 years before teams gave up. Lonnie Walker IV went from playoff hero to unemployed in less than 60 days. His 4th quarter against the Warriors was legendary, but what happened next exposed the brutal reality of the NBA's new financial rules. Picture this. Game 4, Lakers versus Warriors, 2023 playoffs. The defending champs are trying to even the series. Then Lonnie Walker IV happens. He doesn't just show up, he takes over the entire 4th quarter. 15 points in 12 minutes, making the Warriors look helpless. Steph Curry's shaking his head. Warriors fans are heading for the exits early. The Lakers take a 3-1 series lead, and Walker's the unlikely hero everyone's talking about. This was supposed to be his moment. After years of showing flashes with the Spurs, Walker had finally found his role as the Lakers' spark plug off the bench. When they needed scoring, he delivered. When they needed defense, he stepped up. In the biggest moment of his career, against the defending champions, he proved he belonged. Then summer hits. Everything changes. The Celtics sign him, thinking they just added a proven playoff performer to their bench. But 2 months later, they cut him. Not because he couldn't play, not because he got hurt. They cut him because keeping him would cost them $11 million in luxury tax penalties. This is where the NBA's new rules are crushing solid veterans. See, under the new CBA, teams over the second tax apron get hit with massive penalties. The Celtics looked at their books and realized they'd be paying Walker's salary plus another $11 million just in taxes for a bench player. Even if he played exactly like he did in those playoffs, the math just didn't work, and Walker's not alone. All across the league, teams are making the same calculation. Instead of keeping proven veterans on the bench, they're leaving roster spots empty. Why pay millions in tax penalties when you can call up G League players for a fraction of the cost? These young guys might not be ready for playoff moments, but their contracts won't destroy your salary cap. That's the new NBA reality. You can be a playoff hero in May and unemployed by August. Your talent doesn't matter if your contract numbers don't fit the spreadsheet. And if you think that's brutal, wait until you hear what happened to the guy who dropped 53 points in a game just 3 years ago. The NBA bubble created some wild storylines, but none wilder than TJ Warren becoming the hottest player on the planet. For 2 weeks, this guy averaged 31 points and played defense like prime Kawhi Leonard. NBA Twitter was going crazy. Everyone was saying Indiana found their franchise player. Then something happened that changed everything. Let's go back to that 53-point game against Philadelphia. Warren wasn't just scoring, he was dominating, hitting threes like he was Steph Curry, shooting an insane 52% from deep across all bubble games. His defense was on another level too. This wasn't some random hot streak. For those 2 weeks in Orlando, TJ Warren looked like a legitimate superstar. The Pacers thought they struck gold. They had this guy locked up on a team-friendly deal, and he was just entering his prime. Warren was about to become the face of their franchise, the scorer they desperately needed. But then his foot started bothering him. At first, everyone thought it was just normal soreness. Then doctors found the break. That's when everything fell apart. Warren tried coming back, but he kept re-injuring the same foot. 2 years of rehab, setbacks, and more rehab. When he finally made it back to the court with Brooklyn, he was barely recognizable. The explosive first step? Gone. That automatic jumper? Nowhere to be found. He was averaging just 8 points a game, a shadow of that bubble superstar. The physical transformation was shocking. Photos from his return showed a completely different player. He'd gained significant weight during recovery, and that elite athleticism that made him special had disappeared. Teams watched his Brooklyn games and saw a player who couldn't create separation anymore, who looked heavy on his feet, who had lost that quick twitch explosiveness that made him unstoppable in 2020. Here's the brutal part. Not even rebuilding teams would take a chance on him. Think about that. Teams that are literally trying to find diamond-in-the-rough players wouldn't offer him a minimum contract. The same guy who had a $50 million deal couldn't get a single NBA team to believe in him. They all saw the same thing. A player whose body betrayed him at the worst possible time. Warren's story shows how quickly things can change in the NBA. 3 years ago, he was dropping 50 pieces and looking like the league's next great scorer. Today, he can't get a team to return his calls, but at least Warren's decline had a clear cause. Some guys lose their spots in the league for reasons that have nothing to do with injuries or money. Sometimes being a great teammate and fan favorite just isn't enough anymore. You'd think being the ultimate teammate, the guy who puts everyone else first and donates millions to charity, would guarantee your spot in the NBA. But Bismack Biyombo learned the hard way that in today's league, good character alone won't keep you employed. Last season, things got so bad that he literally collapsed on the court. Biyombo wasn't just another player trying to stick around the league. This was a guy who donated his entire NBA salary to build a hospital in his home country of Congo. While other players were buying mansions, he was paying for his 6 siblings' education and housing. In the locker room, coaches and teammates constantly praised his leadership and positive energy. He was everything teams claim they want in a veteran presence. But the numbers tell a different story. Last season, Biyombo averaged just 4 points and 3 rebounds per game. Those aren't just backup center numbers. They're barely NBA numbers at all. Teams started seeing him as a liability on offense, someone defenses didn't even need to guard. Then came the scary moment against Oklahoma City when he collapsed on the sidelines from dehydration while fasting. That image of Biyombo being helped off the court became a symbol of his declining NBA future. Look at Boban Marjanovic, another fan favorite who loved the game, brought positive energy, and made everyone around him better. Fans would chant his name during garbage time. His teammates couldn't stop smiling when talking about him, but just like Biyombo, when his production dropped, all that goodwill couldn't save his roster spot. This is the new reality in the NBA. Teams are getting younger, faster, and more ruthlessly efficient. They're looking at advanced stats and physical measurements, not leadership qualities or community service. A decade ago, having great veterans who could mentor young players was essential. Now, if you can't contribute real minutes and deliver consistent production, all the intangibles in the world won't matter. The message is clear. Being a good person and positive influence isn't enough anymore. Teams would rather take a chance on an unproven 20-year-old with potential than keep a beloved veteran who's lost a step. It's not just about saving money or chasing youth. It's about the NBA's evolution into a league where every roster spot is too valuable to use on anything but pure basketball production. These stories aren't just about Biyombo or Boban. They're about how the NBA's rapid changes are forcing out players who, in any other era, would have jobs for as long as they wanted them. And if guys who donate millions and never cause problems can't keep their spots, imagine how precarious everyone else's position is. The numbers don't lie. Every year, 14% of NBA players watch their dreams slip away. That's not just statistics, that's careers ending, lives changing, and families facing uncertainty. We're not talking about guys who can't play anymore. We're seeing talented players pushed out because they can't adapt fast enough to the league's evolution. Look around the NBA right now. There are all-stars in their prime showing the same warning signs we saw with Warren and Fultz. One bad injury, one down season, one massive contract that doesn't match their production. That's all it takes. The days of veteran players hanging around based on reputation are over. The scariest part? Some of today's biggest names could be next. The game keeps getting faster, younger, and more demanding. Tomorrow's NBA won't wait for anyone to catch up, no matter how bright their star once shined. The question isn't if more careers will end early, it's whose career is next.